Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and conservative views. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. But as we all know, I do not do this program by myself.
That's right. My name is Mike Piwowarski, coming to you live from the East Coast. That's the coast with the most, from the co-host with the most here on the Rundown. 2A views, conservative news, and Craig, thank God it's Friday.
Thank God it's Friday. You know what? I just figured it out. I'm going to pull that from the wind. That's going to be our theme song for Fridays from now on.
Oh, I'm going to be pulling the Friday theme song. I love it.
Yes. We now have a Friday theme song. Thank you very much. How's your Friday going, sir?
January the 8th. Good. Very good. It's pretty much been a day off. It's like the best kind of work, or all I had to do was drop checks off at the bank. You know, the rest of the day was mine. So
those are phenomenal days. Most definitely. Those are most definitely phenomenal days.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Out here, man, it's it's been pretty good. The weather's been a little cold in the evening, but during the day it has been nice. It's been sunny. Sunny in 60s, which, for the wintertime in California ain't too bad. I unfortunately, I had to do a little work this afternoon before we came on the program. But normally I try to shut it all down so that the program is, all I usually have in the afternoons on Fridays. But had a little bit of work before, but I ain't got nothing but chilling after.
I want to let you know that, the weather used to be the big thing that drew people to California. And now you could say 72 all day, every day, day and night, and nobody would care. They're not coming. They're leaving. Even the people in San Diego are leaving, and it is 72 all day, every day. So whereas California used to say, we got sun, we got this. Now we're like, keep it. It's all yours. Keep it.
Dude, because you got sun all day. Look, you can buy a tanning bed for what it costs to rent a place for a day in California.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't need to get a tanning bed. I'll get myself a heater, get myself a lava lamp, whatever. Yeah, no, in fact, I was just reading a big story about, once again, the mass exodus from California.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I just read it as well. Yeah, that's why I brought it up. Yeah. They beat New York. Yeah.
Funny stuff. Yeah, New York is, New York, California, and Illinois are just bleeding people, and they're moving to places like Florida.
Well, if you want to get into bleeding people, that's Chicago definitely leads that in Illinois.
They're doing it with bullets, though.
That's it. Yeah. But they have people bleeding. Well, that's the difference. Yeah, as opposed to bleeding people. Sorry, got it.
Exactly. All right, man. So before we report too much about what's going on, let's go ahead and give a quick shout out to our sponsors.
Let's say hi to our good friends at Hitman Industries. That's hitmanindustries.net. You can get yourself a custom barrel for your rifle. You get yourself a standard barrel for your rifle. Just go to hitmanindustries.net. California Republican Assembly, fighting a good fight behind enemy lines. Now you can be part of California's future today. Reach out to them at California Republican Assembly. If you want yourself a tactical holster, nice inside the waistband concealable holster, you need to go to Hog Holsters, HAWGholsters.com. Okay, you got St. Patrick's Day coming up. Get somebody a St. Patrick's Day gift. Get yourself a holster for your loved one on the Green Day at hogholsters.com. And then, of course, we want some tactical gear, some field gear, some awesome gear. Get your butts over to uscombatgear.com.
All right, folks, once again, these are our sponsors. They bring us to you so that we can bring you to them. Do yourself a favor. Visit them. Just follow the link to their websites in the description to this program. Check them out, and if you like what you see, spend some money with them, and make sure that you tell them it was the guys over at the Rundown that sent you. Now, Mike, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor because your mic sounds a little hot, and I know it's just a little raspy. I'm going to ask you to go ahead and turn your mic down a little bit, and I'll tune you up a little bit on my end. That way we'll get that sound kind of working. Just saying. And with that, we're going to move into our first story today. Now, this first one, I got to tell you, it's an interesting one because this story falls in line with the whole, we told you this was the case, and we told you this was the case a while ago. I think, when I say a while ago, I'm referring to almost 2 years ago, we told you that this was in fact the case. And just now, CNN is at a point where they are willing, or they are actually reporting on it and telling you what is what. And that is CNN is finally reporting that that if you got COVID-19, then you have strong protection against reinfection. Now the headline says for about 10 months, but the actual study says it's up to 10 months. In fact, here's a snippet from the report that was done by Doctor, and I use that term loosely, Dr. Sanjay Gupta.
The immunity you get from prior COVID infection has become way more politicized than anything I've ever seen in medicine, but it's still a very important medical question.
Dr. Dori Segev is a transplant surgeon who says antibody tests should be used in some cases to understand how protected people are. In February, he published research on hundreds of unvaccinated Americans who had COVID.
Almost every single one of them had detectable antibodies.
And the science says if those people then later got vaccinated, they will have even more robust immunity than infection alone. It's something Segev thinks we do need to take into consideration.
COVID is a high-risk, high-consequence way of getting immunity. But if you had COVID and you went through that and you have immunity, that is something we need to respect and we need to incorporate in the ways we draw the sort of the new social contract of COVID.
So, Brianna, there's no question that if you've been previously infected, that can provide immunity.
Now, Mike, I don't know if you caught this, but there were a couple of things I noticed. Number one, they are sincerely trying to hold on to the old narrative, like forcing us to get vaccines. Now, once again, the headline says for about 10 months, but then in the lead line in the story that says at least 10 months. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but they said that the vaccine gave you protection up to 6 months. So in other words, which is better? Up to 6 months or at least 10 months?
Well, Craig, obviously, everybody wants to have the 10 rather than the 6. But if you recall remember when the vaccines first came out and everybody said, well, I have the natural immunities, I had it. The response from them was, well, the natural immunities might only last 2 or 3 weeks, which is why we want you to get the vaccine, because it might last up to 6 months. So the dialogue continues to change, even though the facts are coming out. Now they're trying to suppress them. So it's amazing what they want to do to control you over all things COVID.
Well, and that's what's funny. So in the very beginning, they acted as if there was no such thing as natural immunity. That's what made it even worse. They acted like natural immunity does not exist. Didn't matter how long ago you had it, it didn't exist at all. Then they were like, well, you probably have a natural immunity, but we're not going to exempt you from anything because we don't know how long it lasts.
Right.
But that was, once again, with various scientists already reporting that, it actually lasts longer than the vaccine. So we knew it at least lasted longer than the 6 months of the vaccine. And what he noted here in this study was the people that they studied who supposedly had never had COVID or didn't even know that they had COVID, 99% of them had antibodies. I mean, it once again, let's add this to the list of 100 things, just about, that we know now that, well, let me clarify, that the mainstream media only now is reporting that we already knew. The worst part is they're trying to say, well, it's high risk to get COVID. Well, let's just be honest. When you start looking at what the variants are right now, and there's numerous reports out there that are basically telling you that as of right now, COVID has gotten easier to get, but is nowhere near as bad as it was when it first started.
Yes, and nowhere near as bad as when it first started, right? Because now they still want you to go out and get the vaccinations for it, but it's you could, the normal cold and flu is worse than the current strain of COVID. And let's not even get back on how bad was the first strain of COVID as opposed to the fear factor and control that they were really trying to instill on us.
Well, and that's what gets me about the whole thing, man. It's here's the thing, and I get that they had a right to disagree, just like we have a right to disagree. But the problem was anybody who said these things, even a year ago, once again, you were shut down. And I will say it once again, and I will scream it from the rafters. Yes, we lost our YouTube channel over saying things like COVID with a K is fake.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And
you're right.
It is beyond absurd that they are doing that. Once again, that they are shutting people down and that they are doing this. But that is in fact what is happening. That is in fact how they are looking to control speech. And it's not just about COVID. I mean, I was watching. Well, we will. Did I? I'm trying to see here if I have that story. Yeah, no. So I was reading a story about Hunter Biden's laptop, and they're still refusing. ABC News is talking about Hunter Biden's laptop, and they're acting as if there is nothing in there, nothing on the laptop, and nothing being investigated at all about the big guy and who the big guy is, and Hunter Biden's business dealings and relationships. And the influence peddling with his father. They're still acting as if that is not even a thing, that it doesn't even exist.
And they call it the alleged laptop files,
Right. Exactly. Even AOC had to admit that it's at least half true.
That's right. She said half true because she's half crazy. That's why she said that. So.
She's half crazy.
She's half crazy.
There you go. So anyway, folks, there you have it. It's official now. CNN has said that yes, getting COVID. Now, once again, they say it's riskier and you have a greater chance of getting sick, and all of that. When I say greater, it's like 0.01% compared to 0.02%. Don't get me wrong if that's the actual. But the funny part is that's actually double, but. Is it really a major risk? Anyway, we now know. Now we know. Now that CNN has confirmed it to be true.
Yes.
Oh, gotta love these guys.
They're great.
Next on the agenda, we have the president's physical. For those of you who do not know, the president had his physical recently. Went to the doctor, and they have said that the president is fit as a fiddle, I believe is the term that they use. And what I don't get about this is that there was actually nothing was done or said. Nobody said anything about the president. Nobody said anything about what's the word? Actually, I have to correct myself. It was not fit as a fiddle. That was the actual term. The term that they actually used was the president is fit for duty. The doctor said. Now, they did absolutely zero in terms of researching or looking at his cognitive decline, the obvious cognitive decline that we all have seen. They do, and by the way, you guys, I need you to understand this. That is physiological, right? That is something that should have been reported. I don't see how you look at what he's been doing and how he's been talking and all of that stuff and not be concerned or at least not recognize that he's having some sort of cognitive issues. And I don't see how you completely ignore it. And worst part is, Mike, there was no follow-up by the media. Media didn't ask the doctors anything. They didn't ask anything about his cognitive decline. Nothing. They acted as if it doesn't exist.
Well, Craig, you ask how you get this kind of fit as a fiddle or fit for duty kind of rating. Well, that's simple. It's that the naval captain there at Bethesda was promised his admiralcy and a spot on multiple medical boards around the country when he retires, worth $1 million a year. That's how you get a medical rating for fit as a fiddle or fit for duty.
Well, and I don't know anything about the rest of his physical condition. In terms of his heart rate and his cholesterol and all. Well, I guess I know what they tell us, but the very fact that no mention at all of his cognitive decline was mentioned at all tells you there's, and the fact that by the way, the media didn't even bother to follow up tells you all you need to know. It tells you that you cannot trust what they are telling you.
Absolutely right. That's what I'm saying. It's their doctors bought and paid for. How many times do we have the stories about, how they're selecting general officers to put in the military, because they want them to answer yes to them. This is the same problems we saw during the Obama administration, and the Trump administration tried to weed it out and did a very good job, except now there's still some there that they have these problems with. And here's the issue: again, they're paying their people, or they're ordering their people to say what they want them to say in fear for their jobs, and who knows what else, because it is the party of the Clintons. So.
Yep. There you go. All right, now our next story here is actually some welcome news. Now, normally I'm not in favor of the idea of, I won't say I'm not in the favor of the idea of universities doing research, but most of the time when you hear of universities doing research surrounding firearms, it's almost always with the angle of trying to ban guns. Here in the state of California, we have the Gun Violence, or the Violence Prevention Research Center, Gun Violence Center. Anyway, it's basically at University of California at Davis. They're funded by the state of California, and they do research on violence involving firearms, with the goal of seeking to ban firearms or coming up with reasons in which to support gun control. Well, there is now an organization, there's now an institute that is being set up at the University of Wyoming. And at the University of Wyoming, they are looking to actually start researching firearms, but doing it from a perspective of writing, or at least providing objective information about firearms used in self-defense, and really correcting a lot of the wrong that you see out there. And directly here from the professor who's putting this together, he says, folks in the field who come at it from different directions don't talk to each other. He said, journalists without subject matter expertise will sometimes oversimplify things, and lots of people get left out and voices get ignored. Down here at the bottom, he says, we want to bring clarity to the topic by involving as many stakeholders as we can. And, in here, he refers to issues like, for example, and probably one of the best examples, there are a lot of people who are talking about banning assault weapons, but, after the recent rash of shootings or mass casualty events involving shootings that have taken place, but almost none of them have involved, quote unquote, assault weapons or semi-automatic centerfire rifles with detachable magazines. Almost none of them. In fact, they're not even the weapon of choice in some of these events, and so they want to try to provide some clarity to that. It's also provide some clarity to defensive use of firearms. I say this is well welcomed research.
Yeah, you will take it. It appears to be legitimate research. It's not biased. It's not funded by a liberal government or another liberal-backed organization, or a Bloomberg-backed organization. So we'll take it. We'll take a look at it. We'll see what we got. There's some decent information in there, and we move forward. But it's nice to see, that you have a, for lack of a better term, a government funded, because it's coming out of the University of Wyoming there, that you have a neutral observer and analytics of these type of facts, because every time, Craig, you see like again the Bloomberg or somebody like that, every town it's going to be one-sided, and then when we get something from the gun rights or should be crime prevention research center, the left always want to says, well, that's bias for our side. So it's nice to see a centrist view, a centrist view on all these facts.
Well, and the other thing is that a lot of the data, and for the longest time, John Lott was it when it came to a lot of this. So it's nice to have someone who is going to be, one, fact-checking the fact-checkers, but also someone who's actually going to be conducting and doing some of these studies. A lot of the times, the research that comes out of Crime Prevention Research Center is analyzing other people's data, or taking a look at studies that are done by others and then showing some of the flaws or some of the other information that was left out, that wasn't reported based on that data. Here, I think these folks are actually going to be working on and collecting the data and doing the models and everything themselves.
That's what it's reported to be. So we'll take a look.
So there are something to be hopeful for, at least on the research front. At least let's hope. Yeah, there you go. Cross them fingers. All right, next we have the Disinformation Inc. And this was one a story that just really kind of got to me. And let's pull it up here real quick. There we go. Bam. All right. So right here it says Disinformation Inc. Left-wing groups funnel millions to entity blacklisting conservative news. Now, this was actually from the Washington Examiner, so it's actually part of a report that they did there at the Washington Examiner. And it says here, it says the influential left-wing groups have granted millions of dollars to Disinformation Monitor that has been trying to defund conservative outlets through secret blacklists, records show. The Global Disinformation Index, a State Department-backed entity, has been feeding conservative website blacklists to advertising companies with the intent of shutting down disfavored speech, according to multiple Washington Examiner reports. Several major left-wing organizations linked to powerful donors have steered over $1.7 million between 2018 and 2022 to GDI, according to Grant Records. Now, once again, Mike, this is a government-backed entity, the Global Disinformation Index, right? That is used by advertisers to say, no, we are not going to allow you to advertise on our platform, or we are not going to allow you to advertise that on our platform. And now we're finding out that these groups are basically being funded by left-wing groups and organizations. And I got to say, once again, we knew this was happening. We're just now seeing people starting to report on it. And as far as I know, the Washington Examiner isn't exactly a right-wing newspaper, is it?
The Washington Examiner?
Yes.
It is a from my understanding, it's a neutral paper. We'll call it neutral.
Those exist?
We'll say neutral. Trying to be polite. Listen, this is just more, Craig. I don't want to call. I want to call it fraud, waste, and abuse, but it's not. This is criminal. If you start, if the government starts to take money and direct money towards organizations that are going to put out and false information and try and change. This is not. A campaign where they're trying to garner your favor and get you to vote the way they want to vote. They're putting disinformation out, and they're using government money, and they're using it illegally. They should. This is not what this money has been dedicated for. So there should be federal follow up on this, right? There should be a FBI follow up. But if the State Department and everybody else are already involved in it, so are they. So I guess we'll just grin and bear it for 2 more years.
Well. And this is one of the things that Jim Jordan is seeking to root out with this weaponization committee. The whole idea is to point out that that the government realizes that they cannot, in and of themselves, control speech. That is a violation of the First Amendment. It's a direct violation. So what they've tried to do is to act as an agency to try and get private companies, industry, to actually censor that speech. And they've done so in various different ways and provided financial incentives for them to do so. Now, the legal challenge here as going forward is going to be the question of whether or not that then will constitute, what's the word I'm looking for? Whether or not it will then in turn constitute they're now a government actor. And as a government actor, they are violating our First Amendment rights, once again, by attempting to censor speech. So both the company and the government could wind up getting in trouble behind this.
Yes, absolutely. And it's just a matter of, who's going to call them on it. Is it going to be Jim Jordan? Is it going to be his committee? Because it's definitely not going to be anybody else in the executive branch for sure.
No, it most definitely is not. You would hope that the Justice Department would step up and do their jobs if indictments or at least recommended indictments are issued. But I don't hold out much hope for Merrick Garland. He has definitely proven to be a partisan.
Oh yeah. Well, he's still bitter that he didn't get to be a Supreme Court judge. So
Yeah, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
All right, folks, on that note, we're going to move into our parting shots, brought to you by Hog Holsters. You can find them at hogholsters.com. Go there, get your holster today, and remember to use the discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces. Go get your Hog Holster today.
There you go.
All right, let's move to our first one. We reported yesterday, and actually we reported initially 2 days ago. We reported yesterday about the largest chemical disaster in U.S. history is taking place right now in East Palestine, East Palestine, Ohio, and that brings you this one. It says things to do in Ohio. And it appears to be what appears to be a mushroom cloud. And it says things to do in Ohio. Number 1, leave.
Yeah. Get out. Yeah. Get out. It's 2 weeks now. This is going on, just almost 2 weeks, Craig. And I watched the interview earlier today where they had the director of FEMA, FEMA, Michael Regan, right? Is that his name?
Uh-huh.
And they asked him, they said, well, is it safe to go back? He goes, well, let's be clear. We talked to the people in Ohio and they were like, it's okay to go back. So we said it's okay to go back.
Well, of course it's okay to go back because, the folks over at CNN, they've reported, this is from brand new overnight. It says cancerous, but mostly peaceful environmental disaster.
It is mostly peaceful. It's mostly peaceful. That's true. If you look in the picture, there's only 10% that are under carnage. Everything else is pretty clear.
Oh me, oh my, oh me, oh my. Okay, so now let's move on from a natural disaster. Let's talk about the Super Bowl. Super Bowl halftime show. Not about the Super Bowl, but it's about the Super Bowl halftime show. And this first one, it was the funniest thing because I forgot one of the reasons why I so disliked the Super Bowl halftime show from last year. And then I remembered this image. You want to describe this one to the folks?
I didn't see this year's Super Bowl, so let me say that up front. But it says, me waiting that whole halftime show for 50 Cent or 50 to pop out from under the platform again. And I got to tell you, and that was pretty funny when it happened last year. And same comment as last year. 50 been working out. He looked like $1.25 now. He's a little bigger.
50 been working. He looked like $1.25. So it was funny. So the funny part is, number one, that shirt is not funny. By the way, this is an image of 50 Cent when he was hanging upside down at last year's Super Bowl program halftime show. First of all, hanging upside down, all the weight and excess weight that you have, all kind of rushes up. So made him look a lot more out of shape than he actually is. And then there's the type of T-shirt that he is wearing, which I actually refer to those as man's ears. They're just the ugliest T-shirts that are out there, and they are not very flattering on guys, not at all. But anyway, so that's that one, and then this next one, and I loved this one. Mike picked this one out too. It's hilarious. So this is Jason Mustaine. Jason Mustaine.
Doesn't matter.
Anyway,
It doesn't.
it's a tweet. And it says, the one thing a lot of people don't realize about that Ben Affleck ad is that people from Boston are, by law, required to enlist for 2 years of service at Dunkin' Donuts. Educate yourself before making jokes.
It's true. It's true. I said earlier that you go to New York, there's a Starbucks on every corner, but in Boston, there's 2 double Ds on every corner.
Two double Ds. 2 double Ds, 2 Dunkin' Donuts on every corner. just in case y'all wonder what double Ds we were referring to.
Yeah.
All right, Mike. Hey, it's about that time. Before we head out today, why don't you give that final shout out to our sponsors?
Yeah, let's say hi to Hitman Industries, hitmanindustries.net. You can get rifle and pistol calibers and rifle and pistol lengths. So check out hitmanindustries.net for all your barrel needs. Hitmanindustries.net. California Republican Assembly fighting a good fight behind enemy lines. Check them out today, and you can take part in California's future today. If you want some awesome field gear, some awesome tactical gear, then you need to come on over and see our friends at uscombatgear.com.
That's right, folks. Please do us a favor, do yourself a favor, visit our sponsors, check them out, and make sure you tell them those guys over at the Rundown that sent you. And on that note, we're going to go ahead and call it a day. In fact, we're going to call it a show, and we're going to call it a week. So you folks have a good weekend. Hope you have an opportunity to send a few downrange, and if not, hope you get a chance to get turned up a little bit. On that note, we're going to be out. We will see you on Monday.
Bye-bye.